Hello everybody and welcome. Today we are going to learn how to create a line graph in PowerPoint. So the first thing you're going to want to do is start off with a blank PowerPoint screen. Then you're going to go to Insert and then Charts. And you're going to see a whole bunch of different kinds of charts on that left-hand side. But for this project we are going to be doing a line graph. So you'll see at the top there are many different kinds of line graphs. This is all personal, whichever one you feel would be best for your project. I'm going to be picking this one. Then I just choose OK, and my graph will populate into my PowerPoint presentation. Then we're going to see a box show up, and this is where we're going to be entering all of the data that we had already collected. So if we go to column B in the first row, I'm going to put air temperature. In column C, I'm going to put air temperature prediction. Column D, sea temperature. And in column E, yes, I'm going to be adding a new column. I'm going to put sea temperature prediction. Next, I'm going to go all the way back over to column A, and this is where I'm going to be inputting those years that I collected the data from. So we started in 1925, and we collected data every 5 years after that, all the way up until the year 2020. Now you will add in all of those years. For timing purposes, I am skipping a bunch. Now we also know that we are going to be not only putting in the data that we collected, but our predictions as well. And those are going to go every 5 years all the way up to 2050. So now we're going to start to input that data. In column B, under air temperature, I'm going to start to add the data that I collected. Now what I am adding here is not real data. I just made these numbers up for time purposes. And you're going to put in all that data all the way to 2020, the last year that we have collected data from. From here, we're going to go over to our air temperature predictions. Starting in our second row, we want to delete all of the data all the way up until that 2020, because our predictions are not going to have anything to do with the past. But we are going to put right in that 2020 column the same data that we did collect. Then we're going to add our predictions all the way down to 2050. This is going to make the line continue. From there, we're going to go over to column D, and we're going to input our sea temperature data. Again, this data is just made up, and we're going to do that all the way down to 2020. Then, moving over to column E, we're going to use the same data for 2020 to continue our line and add in our predictions for sea temperature. Once we are done with that, we can go ahead and click that X, and now we have our line graphs. But we're not quite done yet. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do is make sure that those colors for the line graphs are very different. So you're going to click on what looks like a paintbrush, and then move over to colors. Here you will be able to choose what kind of colors will show the most contrast, because we want that contrast between our data and our predictions, as well as our air and sea temperature. Now, if we go back looking to tails, we know that the T stands for title. Every graph needs a title. And since we are charting our air and sea temperatures, that is just what I'm going to name mine. Now again, sticking with tails, we have a title, we have our intervals, but what we don't have is our axes labeled. So we're going to want to go back over to Insert, go to Text Box, and create a text box underneath our x-axis. Now if we look at our graph, we know that on the x-axis we were plotting the years. So we're just going to type in years. I'm going to center it and then use the guides within PowerPoint to get that centered. Then I'm just going to copy that text box because we still need to label our y-axis. So if we look at our graph, we know our y-axis is temperature. But since this is science, we know that just putting temperature is not enough. We need to clarify what degrees we are taking that temperature in. In this case, it's degrees Fahrenheit. Then you'll see that little circle with an arrow right on top of that. What you're going to do is click down on that and hold and drag that box. So that way it is being rotated 90 degrees to label our y-axis. Then I'm just going to tuck that in and you have your completed graph.